Hello and thanks for joining us on Encore. Coming up on today's show. The event that puts Paris at the very heart of the art market, the FIAC is in town, bringing with it contemporary artwork from the four corners of the globe. And I head out of the French capital to check out an unusual setting for an art gallery at an abandoned industrial site 40 miles from Paris. If you're looking for a masterpiece, a bargain from an up-and-coming artist, or just an idea of what's happening in contemporary art right now, then there's only one place for it. The FIAC is showing a selection from 193 different galleries at Paris's Grand Palais. The art fair's in its 44th year, and alongside the very established dealers from the US, the UK and France, there are a handful of new countries exhibiting this year, including Egypt, Kosovo, Singapore and Tunisia. Aurore Dupuis and George Yazbek give us a tour. Under the Iron Dome of the Grand Palais in Paris, a yearly who's who in the world of contemporary art, the FIAC. The works on display come from New York, London, even Beijing, but a group of smaller galleries are defending their corner.
The colors of the wallpaper are the same as the paintings.
Katerina Schendel is from Pristina. This is her first time in the City of Light.
Kosovo is the youngest country in Europe. Next year they're celebrating the 10th year's anniversary only. So it's a very young state with super young artists and a small art scene, and we are really excited to be here.
Katerina's commercial art gallery is the only one in Kosovo. Egypt, Tunisia and Singapore are also represented. Organizers are seeking to encourage international dialogue.
It is a very important platform. You meet the most important collectors, French and international, as well as curators who we work with regularly.
These galleries and their artists are dreaming of making it big in the booming contemporary art market.
In the last few years, buyers from the Asian continent have started entering the international market. You've got buyers from around the world, Latin America, Russia, India. All this is new and it's definitely had an effect on the art market.
The average price tag on a contemporary piece is $27,000. But exhibitors at the FIAC will be hard-pressed to compete with larger American galleries. This canvas by Jean-Michel Basquiat was sold a few months ago for more than $110 million, a record for a contemporary art painting. And among those stands at the FIAC, the Galleria Continua is showing off pieces from their eclectic collection, from big names like Anish Kapoor to a collective of young Cuban artists. Continua might have its spot alongside the other, more classic art dealers at the fair, but the gallery itself is quite a unique endeavour. The project was started by three friends in San Gimignano, Italy, 27 years ago, and since then they've branched out internationally while maintaining the anarchist spirit of their beginnings. I headed to an old paper mill at Boissy-le-Chatel to check out their French outpost. Paris is packed with contemporary art venues, museums, galleries, and even the odd outdoor installation. But if you want to see something really different, sometimes you have to leave town. The Galleria Continua is about 40 miles outside of the French capital. It's a former industrial site with huge interior and exterior exhibition spaces, so they can show all sorts of installations here. Let's go and explore.
The place is astonishing, the work is phenomenal, it's almost a cultural institution.
I think the relationship they have with the artists is incredible. Their generosity in terms of the space they give is extraordinary.
I really liked the Hall of Mirrors.
The gallery represents around 50 artists from all over the world. Some have become regular collaborators on site-specific works, like French artist Daniel Buren.
My friends here often approached me to see if I could make a new piece for them. So gradually they expanded the site, and they asked me to work with them. And this one here was done when there was already another artist's work on show. And so I did them a drawing, and they executed it really well. It's been there for 2 years now.
As well as a new season of exhibits, Galleria Continua is celebrating 10 years at their French site known as Les Moulins. One of its founders, Maurizio Regillo, says that the composition of their collection starts with an appreciation for the artist's approach.
Everything we do comes back to human relationships, affinities. It's not just about the piece of work. We'd started working with Shilpa Gupta, and we were lucky enough to see her work in India. She has a deeply conceptual way of working, trying to work on breaking down borders, eliminating notions of separation, and she's still working on that.
Shilpa, you're one of the artists represented here at the Galleria Continua. Can you tell us a little about the installations you have here?
The series that I have here is called Shadows Without Light, and it is a set of 8 sculptures interspersed in nature. And what you have is like a drawing drawn like around in the sky, and people are actually invited to participate and actually stand at the back. So I sort of wanted to sort of create something which is more participatory in terms of sculpture, where young people can interact, and it's a pleasure to see people sort of go behind and take pictures, and sort of how it then becomes part of their own family albums, their own personal archive, and that they could maybe sort of go back to on their cell phones or, you know, God knows where on the internet, where they store their pictures.
From an online blessing service at London's Tate Modern to little bottles of fake blood at the Yvon Lambert Gallery in Paris, Shilpa Gupta's work has used unlikely vehicles to address big questions. A recent show was inspired by some of the clandestine objects that cross the border between India and Bangladesh, the region's home to the longest fence in the world. Your work's being shown here alongside some very well-known names from Indian art, Shilpa Gupta, Anish Kapoor. What do you think of the Indian contemporary art scene at the moment?
When I started 20 years ago and now, the landscape has really changed. There are a lot of Indian artists in the international mainstream. But what's, I think, crucial and important is that Indian artists from all regions are beginning to show alongside each other.
With outposts in Cuba, China and Italy, the Galleria Continua is a truly international operation. And if you can't make it here to the French countryside, you can see work by these artists in all the major art fairs around the world. Next, to an art world duo who are as well known for their impeccable attire as they are for their canvases. Gilbert and George have a new show at the Thaddeus Ropac Gallery here in Paris, and after tackling subjects like sex, religion and ethnicity, this time their subject matter is beards. As usual, the pair feature in this series of self-portraits in which they're modelling beards made of flowers, woodland creatures and even barbed wire. The artists say the most famous beard in the world belongs to Jesus Christ, and that they've been amused by the recent fashion for beards in the East London neighbourhood where they live. Let's hear from them.
We realised that the whole of the subject of the beard depends on where you live in the world and at which time. When we were teenagers, it would be impossible to get a job in England if you had a beard.
We are trying to speak to the viewer, and we're trying to make an art that's more human, a humanistic art, art that is not based on art but on human beings.
And just to confirm, Gilbert and George themselves remain clean-shaven, and they say they have no plans to grow real beards. Finally, from the masculine world of beards to a more feminine display of artwork, a new show opening at the Monet de Paris explores the relationship between female artists and the domestic space. Spanning both the 20th and the 21st centuries, the exhibition features work from the likes of Louise Bourgeois, Cindy Sherman and Niki de Saint-Phal. We'll leave you with some of the highlights. Do remember to check out our website for more arts and culture, and we're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.